Barry, London of News, Melbourne. I'm heading over now to New Zealand, which is, I hope the weather is as bright in New Zealand as it is here this morning in Melbourne. So good later on in the afternoon. Peter, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
So I believe in New Zealand, you guys have really got into getting people to get IDs, to get out of this fictional system. So you got IDs, and that was, oh, great to see that. Fantastic. And that will help, of course. Yeah, it looks really, really good. We have them here in Melbourne as well. Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. I think it's fair to say these are going to be very important with this vaccination coming up, that you've got to remove yourself from the fictional.
Well, you know, like we're all sort of born into this. I guess you'd call it some sort of bad joke. Yeah. So we're all sort of born into this thing, and you know, if you're not happy with the status quo, you know, and you want to exercise, you know, what is your God-given, if you wish, you know, because I mean that's the truth about it. You only ever get to exercise your rights or not. What is there that you can use to register your objection to the current status? Well, we don't really have anything. So the ID card is part of that. It's a design to kind of awaken you to, you know, like saying, hey, I'm not actually part of this, and there's no way that you can force me to be part of it. You know, that's the thing about it, is that it's our, I don't know, birthright to say no. Eh?
Yeah. Yeah. This all springs up. Of course, Bill Turner's been doing this for years, and he introduced myself here in Australia, and of course, a lot of people have taken up. Quite a few people have got their own ID, and we've used them in the court system, and we've used them for identification in banks. I did personally, and they've accepted it because it's got everything. It's got the photograph, it's got your live birth event or the date of birth. Everything is in there, and the surname is in brackets, and it's removed from that document. So what you're doing, you're identifying yourself. Instead of John Michael Doe, John Michael Doe is part of the system. Yeah. We do a similar thing. So the bracketing thing, we don't do the bracketing thing. What we do is we just make all your whole name, that's then your first name, and you don't have a last name. So you put all your first name in the first name slot, and then you put dash as your last name. You get what I mean? So it's achieving the same thing. It's removing your connection to the estate that's been created under the surname. Yeah. Well, Bill has been going on about that, and he's been on here personally with me. And he was over here in Australia as well, and he's done a few tours. But it's amazing the amount of people who follow him. But when it comes to actually removing themselves out of that fiction, they're just too lazy, and they'll leave it to the last minute. So you're involved in a Maori organization or something over there, are you?
That's the main focus of it is, see, like the first, what we call it Te Moana Nui a Kiwi, and it's actually very old. Okay, so the first kind of European recordings of its existence were in roughly around 1520, and you can find that in the museum. And I think it's either a Portuguese or French traveller ran into the people of the Pacific, and they were telling him about, that's what they called the place, you know, was that. And so what we've done is, you know, like there's many different avenues to try, but what we've tried to do is with our ID cards and the systems of paperwork that Bill and myself and other people have created, is we're trying to bring it to people who are not quite at that level of being able to talk about it with the authority on the side of the road, sort of thing. It's become a kind of a buffer, if you know what I mean. We're trying to get, and that's what the whole point of the embassy was. The embassy was to create a buffer between the people who are holding a card and the authority. So people at the embassy will step in and you know, help construct the arguments for you. To, well, not that we're entering into argument, but you know, help construct the paperwork and the ideas behind what you're trying to say to those that seek to control you or put their jurisdiction over you. So, you know, a lot of people don't know, do they? They've got no idea about what to say on the side of the road to the friendly officer when he goes, oh, hey, you know, you've done this or you've done that, and you need to give me this or you need to give me that. And I mean, like, it's always the same thing, the same. It's really them making requests and having you agree to that, and that agreement becomes like a contract to them.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it is. It's basically they're asking you to contract with them every opportunity they can get. And with this identification, which you have there in New Zealand and one we have here in Australia, there's different flags and different names on them, obviously. You're actually saying, well, I'm not contracting, and this is who I am. I am John Michael, and the door part you can leave that out. The surname is the deceased estate at law. So even in the courts, you have to create that before you actually go near a court, because if you walk into any of these fictional ships in dry dock, you're guilty. So you've got to remove it.
Yeah, that's right.
Bill said that a long time ago. You've got to remove.
You're already in hot water if you go there. And that's the thing about it, is that, you know, the black magic part of it, if you want to look at it this way, is that, you know, that when the judge calls your name, right, he is actually you for that proceeding. You know, he's executor of the estate. And so he's calling his name in effect. And then you appear because you're a ghost of him. That's why he summoned you.
Well, these IDs are going to be very important because of compulsory vaccination, and the only way you can get out of that is to remove yourself lawfully from that fiction and produce identification as another individual. So this is where it's going to come in. So have you got a great following over there in New Zealand?
Look, we've got quite, you know, like, we've got a large number of people that have bought the cards and they've used them pretty successfully in most spheres. You know, I mean, obviously, you know, the people that seek to control everything, they're not going to just roll over and play dead. Hey, so there is a little bit of a struggle associated with it, but, you know, we're already reaching the kind of numbers where, you know, they're making an opportunity for us to prove what we're saying, you know. And so, yeah, I guess, you know, like, it's being recognized. We've been allowed to speak in court as diplomats and ambassadors for other people, you know, which is not normally the case. Normally they try and block you. They've well, there's no, you know, in the legal scene, not the lawful scene, in the legal scene, they've got plenty of different legislations that they've put together that try to, you know, make an attempt at blocking what we're doing, you know, by calling it this and making a reference to it and calling it that, you know, and they have a whole bunch of them. The method of, you know, being part of an embassy, you know, and having diplomatic status, that's never been dragged through the courts before. So they really don't have any answer to it. So it's having quite a bit of success for the smaller people who don't have the argument, you know, because the court doesn't have an argument and answer to that anyway.
Yeah, people have to wake up to the fact, which is going to be pretty hard, because we don't have compulsory masks in Victoria now for a long time. And you know what? I see children wearing masks. I'd say maybe the majority of people, and I was in a shopping area yesterday in a shopping strip, which is a pretty upmarket. I'd say 60% of the fools are wearing masks. Now, of course, the court system is totally fictional, and it moves the goalposts anytime you get a win in lawful areas. They'll keep moving the goalposts. So you must get diplomatic status for yourself. Get out of that system, otherwise they will swallow you up and eat you.
Oh, they're going to do their best at trying to gobble up as many as they can in this period of awakening that we're going through. You know, like it literally is like a peaceful war of mind and perspective, and it's being shifted more in our direction because you can't unknow what you find out. You know, it's very hard. You can fool yourself, but you can't unknow what you know. So like eventually we're gonna, you know, there's no way out of this for them, you know, apart from that they can stand on our shirt tails and be dragged through.
Yeah, it's amazing actually, Peter. I find a lot of the young people now in their 30s and 40s with kids have actually realized that they've been hoodwinked and they're actually waking up, which is fantastic. It'll turn, this will bite these corporations, because we don't have governments, these corporations in the butt. And when Donald Trump takes over on the I think it's the 26th of January, it's all going to change, because he's won the election, and that will help us. Otherwise, we might as well. There's nowhere in the world we can hide anymore.
No. Well, see, that's the thing. There is no hiding. Eventually, what happens is you have to turn and face, and you don't have to do it in an aggressive stance, but it's just not being carried along passively by the society. And the only thing that we can really do is choose to exercise a right or not. And most of our rights are actually just to say no to what they want.
Yeah, I think we've got to remove ourselves from legal fiction, because unless we do that, we're going to be dragged under with these crooks. So we have to stick to lawful, forget legal fiction, and move over. And again, by creating an identification for yourself, which is a lawful one that's recognized not just in your country, but worldwide. In fact, Bill was telling me under the Immigration Act, those IDs are actually acceptable as a passport should you have lost it on the way into the airport. Is that pretty true?
Well, look, if you look at it, it's got that flag on it. Okay, it's probably reversed to you, but that flag is it comes from ancient, law about. Yeah, really the Templars, isn't it? That's the George Cross, And so really that's the Red Cross, which really is passage into any country anyway. I mean, and the fact is that it has all of the requirements of a travel document, and including the old methodologies of what we used to use, Universal Postal Union method of posting yourself from one country to another.
Yeah, well, the bill of landing, and when people understand the whole postal system and the postmaster as well is very, very important. And we have the red ends on our flag here, obviously, and you've got your New Zealand one. But I think a lot of things will change now in the future, and when we start waking up the dead.
I've made a few cards for people over there with the red ensign on it.
Yeah, Monica was on here with Bill when she was on, and you were working pretty closely with Monica, which is when she popped on with Bill, we had a lot of people love to see her. So we'll have perhaps the next time we'll get Monica on board.
Oh well, she's that bubbly personality that people like to see for sure. Hey, and she's a bit of a card, eh? You gotta give her that. She's pretty funny.
Yeah, she's funny.
Basically, it is that we're just talking about freedom. What I looked at was by putting everybody under a diplomatic immunity status and becoming an embassy, that basically removes legal suit and process. So it's kind of like a switch back to common law anyway, because only the real common law things apply after you can't be done legally. If you remove the legal system by diplomatic immunity, then you go back to the common law, life, liberty, and property.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad you mentioned common law, because we're, as you know, we've set it up here in Australia, especially here in Victoria. There's been a little bit up in South Wales, but after the new year, that when we can have proper court cases, which we'll go ahead with that. But in the meantime, people are still stuck in fiction, so they've got to get themselves an identification, as Bill said. Get out of the fiction. So you've got a no contract straight away by producing an identification. Would you say that is pretty fair?
The truth is that it's an opt-in system, isn't it? But people don't know they're opting in, and so they don't have any symbol to opt out. And this is the symbol that helps you opt out. It's a mindset, isn't it? It really is nothing to do with anything that anyone can create. All you do is, once you've decided that you want to be free, then you're telling everyone, aren't you? Oh, I'll notify these guys, I'll notify those guys, I'll notify those guys. But it was something that you were born with. the fact that you were born here, like the snail or the bird or whatever, you know, they don't have to ask where to fly or whether I'm going to crawl or slither in that direction. You know, we're the same. We're of that ilk. You know, we're a creature that is made here, you know, so we have the same rights and that is the bird or whatever, you know. But we've just forgotten, only really domesticated animals have to apply to anything. Hey.
And let's look how we treat animals, which is pretty gruesome in a lot of cases. In fact, we eat them. So we're either the sheep or we're the sheepdog. So anyway, thank you very much for that, Peter. We'll definitely get the word out there to people that they need to remove themselves by the fiction, and by doing so, all they're going to do is create an identification. So from now on, as from this is who I am, and I'm no longer contracting. Thanks very much, Peter, and we'll catch up again with Monica next, okay?
Okay, mate. Have a good day, eh? Thanks.
You just simply send me a photo. I will put in the name, the given names. Your surname, which you will see is in brackets, like John Michael Doe in brackets. So I need your surname, your correct address, which is necessary for an ID, obviously. And then I will send this out to you by registered post. And the barcode obviously is here. It will be recorded on all your documents from then on. On the back of the ID, you will have this. I will print your name here in the correct, like John Michael. The surname is no longer there required. And this is all lawful under the Immigration Act. This can actually act as a substitute for a passport should you have lost it on the way into the airport or back into Australia. Now, the basic information is required, as you've just seen, right?